Yeah, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you taking time out of your schedule, which I know must be pretty hectic to sit down and chat with me. I appreciate it. I've seen your work on Instagram, and you are very, very talented.
Thank
And I'm
you.
honored
Thank you.
to have someone who takes care of wildlife, which is something I'm passionate about. So, welcome.
No, thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited for this.
Cool. I'm glad to have you. And my first question is, how does a Swedish girl end up taking photos in South Africa? What's the
Um,
story there?
so I get this question all the time, obviously. So
Yeah.
I understand it's a bit of a, but yeah, I always say it's a long story, but to make it short, I came as a volunteer when I was 19. I just graduated our equivalent to high school in Sweden. And I wanted to do something just different. I didn't want to start studying right away. I wanted to do just travel and see the world a little bit before I started studying and so on. And then I very spontaneously booked a trip to South Africa to do horse safaris. And I ended up here, absolutely loved it, and just completely fell in love with, especially the bush and the wildlife, and that whole thing, and just the country in general. So then I came back a year later, and then I fell in love with a ranger, and then I got stuck.
You got stuck.
Yes.
Were you alone when you took this trip? I mean, spontaneously chose South Africa. Like, why South
Yeah.
Africa? Did you see it somewhere and you had an idea of wanting to visit one day? When you made the trip
Yeah.
initially, were you alone? Like, what happened?
Yeah, so I was alone. I was traveling through a travel agency though, so I was like traveling with a group of people that I didn't know already. But so I wasn't like solo traveling, but I was by myself in that way. But yeah, I was actually supposed to, because of different reasons, I was thinking about going to Kenya because I had my parents' friend had connections and stuff, and I was supposed to go to Kenya, but then that didn't work out. So I just got completely, like, I was quite hooked on the African thing and horses at that point. So I literally just Googled horses Africa volunteering, and I booked the first, the
That
best
is
thing that
funny.
came up.
Wow. So
Yeah.
your life just led you here, basically.
Yeah, pretty much.
That is super cool. And I
Yeah.
mean, what the move? I mean, you said that you went and then you came back a year later, and then you fell in love with the safari. Then you
Yeah.
had to leave life in Sweden and move to South Africa.
Yeah.
How big was that decision, and how did you deal with everything that came with, leaving your life there and starting a new one here?
It was a very big decision, obviously. I think also from the start, I didn't decide like overnight. Like I came back from South Africa the first time, and it was literally like I had a crush on someone. I couldn't stop thinking about South Africa. So that was all on my mind for a year when I was just working different jobs to try to save as much money as possible to be able to go back. And then I got the opportunity to get a bit of a long-term visa, a volunteer visa. So I was like, okay, this gives me the chance to actually come and live in the country for a bit and spend more time in the country. Like comparing to when I had just been here on holiday, I'm like, of course I'm going to love it when I'm here on holiday. Like, let me actually, live here for real and see if I still love it so much and if I'm happier here. So that's what I did, and then it kind of just progressed with time that it became. So it was never like it wasn't like a day where I'm like, okay, today I'm moving. It was more like, okay, I want to spend more and more time, and then I ended up spending 6 months, and then I ended up spending 9 months, and then I ended up spending, and now I've basically been living here for 3 years.
Wow.
So yeah.
And do you intend to stay longer,
Absolutely.
or you have other destinations that you'd like to visit?
I do definitely have other destinations that I would love to visit. And I think with the industry that I'm in, I definitely had the opportunity to maybe get a job somewhere else in Africa, at a lodge or something like that. And I'm very open to that. But we'll see, where life takes you. But that is definitely something that I'd be very keen to do one day.
Where do you dream to visit the most?
In Africa or in the world?
Africa, in the world. You can give me as many places as you want. You're not limited.
So funnily enough, right now I am super keen to go to like somewhere very cold and see snow and like photograph. Like, I think I didn't spend a lot of time photographing wildlife when I lived in Sweden, so I feel like I missed out a lot. So now I'm kind of keen to almost go to Sweden to photograph wildlife, or even like Alaska or something where, you know, like the colder climates, and photograph that kind of wildlife.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah, so especially Yellowstone is one bucket list place to visit.
It's on your bucket list. Okay.
Absolutely, yeah. But then obviously, then there's so many places in Africa that I really wanna visit. So there's just so much. But that's something that I'm kind of like very keen on right now.
Yeah, but like you said, you're definitely in an industry that affords you that opportunity. And,
Absolutely.
I hope that sooner rather than later, things in the world can become normal again, and traveling and things like that can become the norm, and you'll be afforded your dreams. I mean, your work is absolutely amazing. I'm super excited to see what you can create with colder weather.
Yeah.
Definitely excited for that. But yeah, you talked about how you didn't want to go straight into school again after high school and wanted to travel. Did you ever then go back to university? Did you ever then study anything in particular?
Not
You
really.
didn't?
No, I didn't.
Wow.
I should have probably, and I probably still should, but because that's what you're supposed to. But I've been doing.
Okay.
I've been doing online courses and stuff. So I love learning and studying and just keep on like progressing in life in general. So especially during lockdown, when all of a sudden you had all this free time, then I made sure to do a lot of online courses and stuff. Because I felt like all of a sudden I had all this time to actually study. So then I did a lot of online courses, but it was mostly photography based.
Okay, but I mean, I think this goes to show that. I mean, you mentioned that it's what you have to do, it's what you must do, but I don't think going to mainstream school is the be all end all route to take. And I think your story is a very good example of how you can, I guess, quote unquote, make it without having to go to mainstream school. So I'm definitely not saying go against the system and rebel and try and do it by yourself. But a lot of people are afforded opportunities to break into industries without having to go to mainstream school.
Absolutely,
which is super cool. And
I think
grateful for people who have that opportunity.
Yeah, and I think as long as you do something that makes you happy, then you like, I got to a point where I was like, okay, either I like spend a lot of time studying something that I actually don't really 100% want to do, but it's just gonna be a backup plan, and I'm supposed to do it because it's a backup plan, and spend all my time and energy on that, or I spend all my time and energy on the thing that I actually want to do, so that I make sure that I don't need the backup plan. And that's kind of the mindset I have right now.
I appreciate that mindset. That's a really good philosophy. And we can talk about countless number of people in the world who are in that exact same situation. They are in mainstream school and are either doing it as a backup plan or are doing it because people around them don't believe that they can pursue what they're really passionate about. And more often than not, it's things that are in a creative space. Being a musician, being a photographer, being a painter, a sculptor. But I'm hoping that as we continue to progress as the human race, things like that become normal. Things like that are normal and not just treated as hobbies or side things, But for you, being someone who didn't actually study photography or didn't have any like real background in it, how was it for you to have people who were around you to trust you and believe in you and give you an opportunity in the industry?
Yeah, it means a lot, so obviously I'm still not doing photography full time, so I still have the job at the lodge, which is also, that's something that I do love and I'm very passionate about as well. And it gives me the opportunity to live in the bush with these wild animals that then bring me photographic opportunities and stuff. But even like my parents and people around me are very, very supportive of my photography, which I'm so thankful for, because it means a lot to have people believe in you and, you know, pushing you and helping you, and just not looking at it as in like, no, but it's just a hobby. It's just, you know, you're going to get over it and you're going to get that doctor's degree or something, you know. They actually believe in that, okay, this is what you want to do. So yeah, it means a lot, definitely, to have people around.
Okay, so what do you do at the lodge?
At the lodge, I'm front of house. That's what it's called, and I'm the assistant manager. So the front of house part especially is I'm responsible for all the housekeepers and the waitresses and the kitchen. That is my main like responsibility, to make sure that they all do their job. And then you also have a lot of like guest relations. So you host guests at meals, you chat to them, make sure everything's going well, and I check guests in when they come to the lodge. I welcome them and I talk through like how it works at the lodge with the game drives and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's a lot of talking to guests, and I talk a lot, so it works very well for me. And then it's being responsible for the staff as well.
Okay, and I mean, it's very clear to see that you're very passionate about the lodge and the safari and the wild. But what I'm trying to understand now is, with photography, how does it all fit in? Like, what more do you want to do with photography? Or it's always going to be the lodge first and then photography? Or is photography something you want to build on and grow into something that you want?
Yeah, it's a very good question. I think the lodge is now, it's a stepping stone for me, giving me the opportunity to, as I said, live in the wild and be able to build my photography more and more. And then the goal for the future with the photography is hopefully to be able to host photographic tours and, you know, take people out to teach them photography, do workshops, and obviously selling prints and that kind of stuff as well. But so that's hopefully the dream with it, especially the photographic safaris. That is something that I would love to do in the future.
Yeah, that is absolutely beautiful. Can't wait to see it come to fruition, for sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, but it's like, now that I have a better understanding of what you actually do at the lodge, it's very clear to see that the schedule for it is quite demanding. I think for anyone in the creative space, there's a need for a balance, you know, to feed the creative side of life and to feed your private life and then to feed work life. For you have all these three things. So how do you then recoup and re-energize to make sure that all these things have the attention and time they deserve?
Very good question. I'm not 100% sure myself.
It's a hard question to answer. I mean, most people ask that question are like, I haven't figured it out. I don't think I'll ever figure it
out. Yeah. So like, I don't know, it's something that does, it's a bit funny because in one way, like it's part of the photography thing, but something that does calm me down a lot, and I find very soothing and we call it therapeutic, is to edit photos. To just like listen to audiobooks or podcasts or just music, and then I edit photos, and that is very therapeutic for me to just, you know, just go through this and you let your creative mind just flow, kind of thing. But other than that, I think also just simply sometimes, because I get very addicted to my phone, being on Instagram a lot, and, you know, answering messages and, you know, that whole thing. So sometimes I actually turn my phone off, and then I'm like, okay, now I just need to sit here and just watch a movie without touching my phone, and actually just
how long do you turn it off?
Because otherwise, like an hour, or like however long the movie is, or I'll say like at 8 o'clock, I'm like, I turn it off, and then, or like I put it on what's it called? Silent mode. So then I know if someone phones me and it's urgent, it will still come through. So if it's like they really need to get hold of me, then it can still come through. But just so that I don't check Instagram and stuff, and then I'm like, okay, let me just put the phone in another room so that I can actually concentrate on just relaxing and just watching this movie instead of being on my phone and watching the movie at the same time. Because that's usually what I do.
Yeah. No, it makes sense. It's very interesting to see that. How you relax is by doing more creative things. By
Yeah.
Your creative mind doesn't seem to ever sleep, but that's okay. If that works for you, it
Yeah.
works for you. Like I'm
Yeah,
saying,
absolutely.
a lot of people that I ask are like, I've never really figured it out, and I don't think I will, but this is what I do, and it seems to be working right now. And I think about the phone and social media, I can definitely relate to that. Definitely becomes very addictive. I don't think I'm at a place and a space where I'm able to turn it off, but I think I need to get myself to that place. Just be off it for a little while and just have your mind be filled by different things.
Exactly. No, I have a time limit on my Instagram. So if I reach an hour and a half per day, then it tells me I've been on Instagram for too long.
It cuts you out. It cuts you out. I think I need to implement that. That's very good. Thank you so much for sharing.
No worries.
But yeah, I think let's talk a little bit more about your photography and the stuff that I've seen on your Instagram. The first one is, what is your favorite animal to photograph, or what is your favorite animal just generally, and why?
So those are two different ones, or I guess, yeah. So my favorite animal to photograph must definitely be leopards. Because they're just so beautiful. And it's like you can't get a bad shot of a leopard. Like they just
Wow.
Yeah, but it's like, no, they're just amazing too. And also to be in the presence of a leopard, and then when you watch them through the camera, you get so close that you can see, the little ear twitch, and you see the whiskers, and that's amazing to be able to feel like you're that close to such an incredible animal. But my favorite animal in general is actually a kudu.
The kudu?
Yes.
Why the kudu?
It's a funny story, because the first time I came to South Africa, obviously I didn't know anything about the animals in Africa in general. Like, the lions and zebras, but like that's about it. And then all of a sudden you come to South Africa, and here are all these different antelopes that you had no idea existed. And the one day we saw kudu all of a sudden, and you know how a kudu, like, it often looks at you, and it like straight on looks at you, and then it runs away very, very quickly. Unless it's a very relaxed kudu. But we saw it through the bushes, and it was looking straight at us. And when you see a kudu from front, it kind of looks like a teddy bear.
What? What kudus have you been seeing in South Africa?
But I think with the markings, the markings on the nose and then the big ears, I thought it looked like a teddy bear. So I called it.
I've never heard that one before.
So like the first look, I was like, it looks like a teddy bear
looking kudu. Okay.
Yeah, but it's with the markings, like when you see it from straight front, you have these white markings over the nose.
I think I can see
big
it.
Ears.
I think I can see it.
Yeah, so it's kind of, and then it was just so quick, and then it disappeared, and I was like, that looked like a teddy bear, and then it had these, and then it had these big horns. So I said to my friend, I was like, it looked like with these big horns. I'm like, it looked like an elk bear. So that's what I called it for such a long time, especially with me and my friend. Like, we were joking about.
At the time, did you know it was a kudu?
No, I was with a guide, and he obviously told us that's a kudu. But I was like, it looked like an elk bear, and that's what we called it as a joke for such a long time. And I think we still do when we talk about it, especially with that specific friend. But then because of that, and then when I saw them properly, I was like, wow, these animals are so beautiful. So then they just became very special, and since then they've been my favorite animal.
And have you had an opportunity to then photograph them after that? Okay.
Yes. Yeah, no, I definitely had an opportunity to photograph them, and I'm actually still waiting. They're difficult to photograph though, because they usually walk away as if you want to get that front on shot, which is what I'm still kind of waiting to get. And I'm kind of thinking that once I get that front on perfect shot that I really want, I'm actually gonna get a tattoo of it.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay, I like the sun red.
Yeah.
The sun red. Okay, thinking about it now, what are some of the difficult parts about taking photos of wildlife? I mean, when it comes to humans and products and still life, it's easy. you tell a human what to do and they do it, or you park a car there, or you take a picture of a car and it just does its thing. But animals is a whole different ballgame. We can't control them. We need to be very patient and very,
Absolutely.
patient. So what are some of the difficult, very patient and very patient, but what are some of the difficult parts of taking photos of?
Yeah, it's definitely patience. You need to really just like be calm, but it's patience, and then when the moment happens, it's literally with a matter of seconds. Especially with something like a leopard, for example, they're very elusive, and you will most of the time you'll just see them super quickly, and then they all disappear into the bush. So then it's super tricky to get a good photo of them, and you need to be ready all the time. So you need to be on it and be ready, and have your camera settings on, like that you like them, and so your camera is kind of ready to shoot, just point and shoot kind of thing. But you also need to be very patient when you find something and you need to sit there for hours waiting for it to actually lift its head up.
For hours?
Yeah, sometimes.
Did you say for hours?
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
I think we sat at a cheetah. It was a cheetah with two female with two cubs, and we were waiting for her to walk up, and we wanted them to come and drink, or we were hoping they were going to come and drink at a little dam that was close to the road. And they were further into the bush, so we couldn't really see them properly, but we knew they were there. We could see them in the binoculars, but we couldn't get any good photos. So we sat there for 3 hours waiting for them to stand up.
That's 2 movies.
But the worst part was then they did stand up, but they walked the other way. So we never.
They didn't even drink. Why were you telling me this? Why?
It was crazy. But the funny thing was the next morning we drive there, and I think nature was kind of like, what do you call it, like giving back for us waiting so long the day before. It was kind of like rewarding us the day after, because the next morning we're driving, and for some reason we left a little bit later than we usually do, which was just a coincidence. And then all of a sudden we see these cheetah walking towards the road on this open field. And then we got this most amazing sighting of them. They're walking on the road. The cubs are playing with each other, and then they cross the road just behind our vehicle. So then it was,
and you just photographed them.
Yeah.
Oh, but you wouldn't have known after 3 hours of waiting that the next day you were going to.
You don't know, and you could have missed it. So like all the days before, we had kept on missing the cheetahs, and people would always tell us, "Oh, did you guys see the cheetahs?" And we were like, "No, when?" And they were like, "10 minutes ago."
So
and we would be like right in front of them or right behind them, and just miss them all the time. And then now, like the last day, we got a sighting, so it made it much more special as well.
That is special.
Yeah.
I think the things that you have to wait a little bit longer for mean so much more.
Yeah, absolutely.
But what's been your most epic moment in the wild so far?
Oh, wow.
With a camera or without a camera?
Most epic moment.
Take your time with this one.
It's tricky because there's so much. Like, especially
and you
living
can share
out
them.
here.
You can share them. You can share some you want.
Yeah, I think the one that pops into mind right now is just a couple of weeks ago. Okay, maybe it was 2 months ago actually. We got a call. We were just at the lodge. I was doing some office work and whatever, and we got a call from our managers that said that they were driving up towards our sister lodge, and they bumped into wild dogs. And they radioed us, and they said the wild dogs are heading towards the lodge. So just be ready with cameras and stuff, because it seems like they're gonna run past the lodge from the way that the direction they were heading. So I ran to my house to get my camera, and then I sat by the gate, hoping that they were gonna run past on the road, and I could get some low angle photos, because that's obviously you want to try to get as low as possible for the best shots, and you can't do that in a vehicle. So having the opportunity of them running past the lodge and getting low angle shots of something so special as a wild dog as well is quite amazing. So I was sitting there at the gate of the lodge, waiting for them to run past on the road that runs next to the lodge. And all of a sudden, here are these wild dogs, and they're not running past the lodge, they're running into the lodge. So they literally like running towards me, and then they saw me, Yeah, and they do this thing where they like, they look at you and they super inquisitive and they like wondering what are you, and they like a little bit unsure if they can move on or not. And I'm just standing there taking photos the whole time, and yeah, it was incredible.
Were you not scared?
Not really, because I was in the lodge, so I knew
there's a fence.
Yeah, there is a fence, but
Okay.
the gate was open, so they were coming through the gate. And wild dogs, it was also a matter of reading their behavior and knowing, they were coming towards me and they weren't acting aggressively, So if they would be acting aggressively, I would have walked away and gone back to the office where I knew I was safe, which was right there. But it was a matter of reading they were just being curious. So I knew they wouldn't attack me or that I wasn't in danger. But yeah, it was quite heart-raising though.
That is scary. So you definitely have had to learn how to read certain animal behaviors.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's like the key for wildlife photography, I think, to be able to read animals' behaviors, to one, be able to predict where they're going to go, to see. You learn things like if a cat yawns, okay, now it's going to start getting active, and it might get up and moving, and it's a matter of reading behavior to know, okay, let me put myself in the best spot to get the best shot, kind of thing. But then it's also a matter of when you encounter something like an elephant, even if you're in a car, it's quite intimidating to encounter an elephant, and then you need to be able to read that behavior and know when to back off and leave the elephant some space, and you need to be able to read of where can I put myself to not bother this elephant and not push any boundaries and put myself or the elephant in a dangerous situation.
Wow, I don't know if I would.
Yeah.
Give me like a 300 millimeter lens, and then I can take the picture of the animal from like a kilometer away, because I'm just not getting that close at all.
You need a little bit more than a 300 mil if you take a kilometer away.
Maybe 2,000 mil.
Yeah, something like that.
Oh my goodness! But that sounds epic.
Yeah.
I mean, the adrenaline and the blood rush and
that's the thing. Yeah.
The excitement of it all. I think it's unmatched. You can't really put a price tag on experiences like that.
And at the same time, you need to handle the camera and get the right settings and make sure.
Like you want to be in the moment and enjoy the moment, but you're like, if I do it too much, I'm gonna miss the shot. So get the shot. That's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot to think about.
It sounds super, super, super amazing.
Yeah.
But how has that whole experience now affected? I mean, the whole experience of the pandemic affected your job as a person who works at the lodge, and has it affected your creativity in any way in terms of taking photos of wildlife?
Yeah, it's
either
a very good
in a good
question.
way or a bad way.
I think from my photography, it's been a very good thing. Because I spent lockdown in the bush. So I had a lot of time to actually, I was like sitting out in our garden, taking photos of birds, just practicing photography as much as possible. I had a lot of time to edit and practice that and find my style and learn a lot of new skills with that. But then obviously being able to go on game drives every now and then and it just being out in the bush, it really helped. So, and also spending a lot of time, like all of a sudden I had all this free time and then I could spend it on my photography. So that was the big thing. But then from a lodge point of view, it's been much harder, obviously, because tourism have taken a really big hit. Which I don't think it's not a secret. Everybody knows that, and it's been a tough year in that way. But we have been very, very lucky to be at a lodge that we've been very well taken care of. So I count myself as one of the lucky ones, as in like I've been able to keep my job and have had a good salary through the whole pandemic. So I've been very well taken care of in that way.
That's super cool. That's absolutely amazing. Especially looking at it from a position where a lot of people have lost jobs because of everything. But I'm also glad that it's allowed you and afforded you time to, better your skill. Despite the fact that a huge chunk of this whole period has been very negative. Lost a lot of lost lives. I think it's always good to look at situations and try and pick up the lessons learned or the positives from it. I think for me, I was sharing it recently. If it was not for the lockdown, I would have never started this podcast.
See, exactly.
Yeah, I'd been procrastinating it so much. I was like, I've got school, and then I didn't have school.
Yeah,
I was kind of forced to do it, So
absolutely.
Yeah, you were gonna say?
No, but that's amazing, and I think I hear so many stories are like that, where people, they've been wanting to do something for so long and they've been putting it off, and then eventually, when lockdown came, they're like, okay, now I have the time to do it, so let me just do it. And a lot of good things came out of it, and I think that is the big thing, because it's obviously been a horrible year for everyone.
Yeah,
there's no doubt about it. But I think to look at the positives and see what have I learned in this during this year, and how have I grown as a person, and what positives have come into my life that wouldn't have come in if it wasn't for the pandemic. And I think it's a very good way to look at it.
Yeah, that is so true. Speaking about growth and learning things, with your, I guess, career, your love and passion for photography, how have you grown since you started? I'm not sure. How long have you been taking photos? It's something that I haven't asked you.
I've been taking photos. So I got my first camera when I was 15. So that is 9 years ago. But wildlife photos I've been taking since about 3 years back. And more seriously, the last two years, yeah.
That's recent.
Yeah.
Looking at the quality of your work, that's actually quite impressive.
Oh, thank you.
I saw one of your reels about what the photos I used to take and the photos I take now. I was laughing so hard. I was like, now I'm thinking it's only been 3 years since then, which is very, very impressive.
Yeah.
I say so myself.
And most of that growth is during lockdown. Most of the growth.
Really?
Yeah.
Look at what
I can see a huge difference from my photos a year ago to now.
Definitely look what lockdown can do. But I think my question is, what has creativity done to you as an individual? How has it changed you and shaped you for the better?
Oh, wow.
If at all.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a big question.
No, take your time. We can pause and then you can always
no
the seed.
Changed me as a person. I think it's definitely made me appreciate the wild much more than I have before. Like, I've always loved nature and enjoyed it and so on, but now I've actually it's made me want to learn more and be more passionate about things like conservation and that whole thing, and that's definitely, I think, made me to a better person, if you can put it like that. But also it's finding a passion in something so strongly that I know I'm so passionate about this, and this is my whole life almost. It makes you focus on that so much, and it makes you find joy and happiness in that passion, and brings you some kind of like direction in life, I think. Yeah, very deep, but I think that's what it's given me.
We definitely accept deep.
Yeah.
We definitely accept deep. There's no problem with deep. I think it's super cool that you're mentioning, and I think it's also something that you mentioned already. It's the idea of finding something you love, finding something you care about.
Exactly.
And I don't know how often people think about that, but it changes you. Creativity changes you. Who you were before you grabbed a paintbrush, who you were before you started writing poems and writing books or taking photos, is two different people.
I think there's other things in life that are more important to me now than they were back then, like before I started taking photos, and my priorities have shifted, and I think to the better, which is towards my photography and my passion, and putting my all into that, instead of just running around doing kind of whatever that doesn't really have a goal, and you don't really like actually achieving anything, and it's just my priorities have shifted to something better.
That's super cool. That's absolutely amazing. Really.
Yeah.
And I just want to say thank you one more time for being, we're drawing closer and closer to the end of the questions that I have. But I really do appreciate sitting down and chatting with you. An honor to get to know you better and get to hear you as well.
It's a pleasure. I'm very glad you wanted to have me on the podcast. It's my first podcast, so
really,
yeah.
No ways! I don't believe it.
Yes,
the first of many. I hope the first of many.
I hope so. I love listening to podcasts. So yeah,
me too. I'm a big podcast person.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I don't know how many people think about this or how many people just hop onto it for the sake of hopping onto it, but why do you share the content that you share on Instagram or on your social media? What's the reason for picking out certain interviews and taking the time out to edit certain interviews and then uploading to this platform for the possibility of billions of people to see? What is your end goal?
Yes, I think it started with. The Instagram just started with me actually like just taking photos for fun and just because I was out in South Africa and I was just, had my camera and I took photos, and then I really enjoyed the editing, so I put a lot of effort into that, and then I was just posting it on like an album on Facebook and I didn't really do much else with it. And then my friend told me like, no, but you need to put it on Instagram, like you need to start on Instagram. And I was like, really? Should I don't know. And then I did. And it felt like, okay, now I actually have a purpose with my photos. I have somewhere to put it. I have somewhere to get feedback. I have somewhere where people can actually appreciate. And now it's turned into that where like, this is where my photos, like I put my work into social media and I can get a lot of feedback, which is amazing. And you get so much support from it. And you meet so many incredible people and actually make real connections with people who are like-minded, and you actually create something and find something that you wouldn't have had if it wasn't for social media. So I think, and I hope that I can inspire people just like the people that I follow on Instagram inspires me. I'm hoping I can inspire people the same way. And then it's also very cool to look back on yourself, like scrolling through my own feed
and going back my workflow.
Really?
I look back at some of my work, I'm like, bro, what were you doing? No.
But see, then you see how much you've grown. And it's amazing. So I really enjoy that in that way. It's memories and it's
I struggle so much looking back at my past work. I'm like, did they really pay me for that photo shoot, bro? Like what? But like you say, it's good to look back and to look at the journey. I guess we all start somewhere, seeing how much you've achieved. I think that should do a lot to a creative. Just if no one's gonna send you a message, if no one's gonna say they appreciate your work, just the mere fact that you took the step to do something and you grew and you're just a better person. Not the best you can be, but you're definitely getting there. But just that mere fact of looking back and being like, yo, this is where I started, this is where I am. That should always encourage any creative to continue doing what you're doing. Which is beautiful. I think my last question will be, what do you value most about this entire journey? Looking back when you made the decision to take a trip to South Africa, to where you are now, what do you value most about the entire process?
Probably, I think how much I've grown as a person, from being a 19-year-old that didn't know anything about the world and coming to South Africa, that is a very special country in many ways. And it's amazing. It's an amazing country, but it's also a country with a lot of different cultures, and learning about that and, understanding different people who come from different places and have different backgrounds. That has really made me grow as a person. And then obviously the people that I've met, the connections and the friends that I have, and people who I now call my family, and
that's so beautiful.
I've come so close to. That is definitely what I value most.
That is so beautiful, and I appreciate a chunk of the creative community for that. very rarely do you not have people who don't want to help, don't want to chat, and don't want to network. So it's beautiful. And I appreciate that aspect of always knowing, always feeling like there's people out there who care, who are there for you in this journey.
Absolutely.
Which is super nice.
Yeah, there's so much positivity within the creative community. I think it's because you hear a lot about social media bullying and people share like how, you know, people are very mean on social media, but I've never really met that. There's been very few times where someone have said something that isn't the nicest thing or something, and then I kind of tell them, hey, that was quite rude, but okay, let's move on. But most of the time, you just get amazing feedback and amazing positivity from the creative.
Yeah, but how do you not let situations like that get to you? You know, like you're saying, I mean, there's so many positive things about social media, but there can be very negative things about it as well. And when you do encounter the negative, how do you navigate through making sure it doesn't get to you and affect your work?
So most of the time, I've never really had negative comments about my work specifically.
Okay.
It's been more like negative. Been like people just creating negativity, talking about you know, making stupid comments about animal behavior or this and that, and it's and most of the time, not always, but most of the time, it's just people trying to show off and who actually don't know much, and then I tell them the facts, and then they like, oh, okay. So then it's not very personal, so it's fine. And I think also with my work, it's because it's not like, obviously I put a lot of time and effort into it, but it is very subjective. So like it's very much up to each person if they like it or not. So if someone doesn't like my photo, then I'm like, okay, then that's up to you. Unless they have constructive criticism where I'm like, okay, cool. If you tell me like, try this next time, and then I try it and I'm like, oh, that really works. Thanks for the help. You know, then that's just great and it makes me grow. But if people are like, oh, I don't like your photo, then I'm like, okay, well, I like it, so
that's what's important. And I'm always telling people this: if you like your work, man, come on, that's more than enough. You know.
Yeah, and I feel like at least it's not, because you hear a lot about, you know, especially influencers who post a lot of photos of themselves, and you know, then they get comments about their appearance, and you know, I think that can get very toxic. And I think that's where I'm lucky that, you know, I don't post photos of myself. I post photos of nature, and nature is flawless. So you can't, you know,
you're in a safe space.
You can comment there.
You're in a very safe space.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it can definitely get hectic. And I think thinking about it, when you really zoom out and look at the bigger picture, as you grow, as you get more followers, the more people that see your work, the more the chances of things like that happen. You know? So I think
unfortunately, yes,
it's always good then to prepare your thoughts, prepare your mind, and kind of have a tough skin for it, because the internet can be very, very toxic if we're not.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you so much for this chat. It's been absolutely amazing.
It's been such a pleasure.
If God allows it, maybe we can meet sometime and you can teach me how to take pictures of wild dogs. That would be nice. That would be super cool. But I appreciate this time. It definitely means a lot.
No, thank you so much for having me on. I really enjoyed this, and I'm excited to see the results.
Thank you so much. Cheers.
Okay, cheers.